What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new Peacemaker review, recap, and breakdown. This is for episode 4, and I said I'd be back to check in with you guys about how Peacemaker is doing after the 3-episode drop initially. And I have to say, right off the bat, I do feel like Peacemaker is the gift that keeps on giving. I just had a great time with episode 4. I can't wait to hear all of your thoughts about this episode down in the comments below. We certainly got a few interesting developments. The comedy was there through and through, I felt. Yeah, I just want to get right into this, so let's do exactly that. So this episode picked up more or less kind of on the road. Vigilante is holding his leg because, of course, at the end of last episode, we saw Vigilante's feelings get hurt because Peacemaker was kind of okay and not compassionate enough to Vigilante's liking for him to get tortured so that Peacemaker wouldn't allow any information to get out about what they know about the butterflies. But another interesting development is when Harcourt asks Peacemaker, what did they do with that butterfly that was floating at the end of the previous episode? And he said that he shot it. Now, as we learned towards the end of the episode, that isn't the case. And of course, this allows another somewhat animal, well, it's not an animal, this is an insect, but along with Eagly, James Gunn never fails to capitalize on what he can do with insects, creatures, animals, or whatever. And yeah, quite literally later on, we had Peacemaker getting the little butterfly high. So there's that as well. So I can't wait to see what is deeper about all of this butterfly business, especially with what Judo Master was going to say later on. This is what I mean. As fun as this episode was, I feel like there was quite a few developments we have to talk about and theorize about, of which, again, let me know all of your theories of the revelations that we learned in this episode down in the comments, because I feel like it could go quite a few directions. Another thing I just noticed straight off the bat when Clemson was coming in, just like Peacemaker get in my office, I love the way this is shot. In that moment, we had the camera somewhat leaning in, turning around, following the character, doing like a reverse. It was almost like in fact, it probably was a one-shot thing, unless they did like camera trickery and where they did cut it, but it looks like it resumed more or less straight off when it was turning, if you get what I'm saying there. But again, not only is Peacemaker a show that subverted a lot of fans' expectations, it's funny for the most part. I mean, obviously that's subjective, but for me, the comedy lands very, very consistently. But it's just a really well shot show as well. Like, another thing that stands out to me is when the camera followed Peacemaker like running through the corridor when he was going after Judo Master later and did that little kind of superhero landing. After a bit of a conversation with Clemson, because Clemson obviously is a bit concerned with Peacemaker not pulling the trigger on the Butterfly family that involved kids, but without a good reason. He doesn't really want to do it, and he just, if anything, feels bad. In the meantime, though, Clemson is quite happy having Vigilante on the team, especially with some of the speech he gave the team later with John and everything, that they need a psychopath. Like, they need, it's them against the world of possible alien invasion, which I am thinking, like, why aren't there, if you want to kind of zoom out of this box, like, why aren't there more people on this? Maybe there is, but they're just like a Black Ops group dealing with it, maybe in this area, since we did see all the butterflies all over the globe. So I assume there has to be other teams akin to this one dealing with, you know, butterflies in other areas. But regardless, looking at all of this in hindsight with the Clemson revelation later of him being a butterfly, it's just so interesting watching all of this with him leading the team. And I don't necessarily think he's a double agent butterfly, so to speak, like in how he's really working for the butterflies. That would be a little bit too obvious to me. With him helming all of this and genuinely, like, he ordered Peacemaker to take out those butterflies, and Vigilante did it in the end, if you remember, with him humming and sniping the family last episode. So he definitely does want to take out those butterflies still, even though he is a butterfly himself. Now, why is that? That's what makes me so intrigued, unless some of you, let me know down in the comments, believe that he was compromised recently. Perhaps that could have happened when they were at the politician's house of, you know, whom was the target. But I don't know. I think it's more interesting to play him being a butterfly for some reason, wanting to take out his own people. But again, I can't really figure out why right now. Again, with this show having to tackle so much, I still like how, even though it's a show that doesn't take itself so seriously, they do like to kind of spend some time still on the characters such as Leota, who's a very interesting character when you consider who her mother is, which is Amanda Waller, being quite the opposite. Yet you can tell they're trying to play a little bit with the idea of what if we do put her on a path to maybe have some actions that might make her walk down the path of her mother, how would she deal with that? Would she kind of end out exactly the same as her mum, or would she actually still have a bit of empathy in a similar way to what Harcourt said, in where Leota was saying, I never killed anyone before, and Harcourt was saying, if you want to do this job, you have to make the hard choice when necessary. And a little bit later on, obviously, it was about like, it's good that it hurts, otherwise you become somebody like Amanda Waller who has no care for human lives. I mean, that's a bad abbreviation, but you know, it's interesting Leota hearing that, because she's like, that's my mum. And now this episode, when we see her shoot Judo Master, which is a big thing, so that's quite a shocking thing in of itself. But then you saw her, and maybe Vigilante is easily manipulated, but she did still manipulate him to kill Peacemaker's father. And that is interesting. Now, Peacemaker's father is a pile of trash, don't get me wrong, but she likes Chris, for as much as we know. Peacemaker, she likes him. So she still is doing that manipulation to Vigilante, knowing how much that would hurt Peacemaker if he were to find out that Leota did manipulate Vigilante to kill his father. It does add another layer of messed up on it, and this is speaking larger too, like mother, like daughter almost. Now, I do not want to completely slap that label on it, because Leota clearly isn't her mother, Amanda Waller, but I like how James Gunn is kind of sprinkling in, oh, what if we give her a few things? Will she be exactly like her mother, or will she still be quite compassionate and empathetic and not turn out exactly like her mother, but perhaps through doing a few Black Ops shady things, understand a little bit more about her world. I also love the other little plot in the episode where we have Judo Master just kind of out cold in the HQ, if you will, with John somewhat looking over him, just thinking he's such a badass for taking out a kid, basically. And to be fair, Judo Master is quite formidable, but I like how he was like loosening his restraints the whole time. This is when we pick up with some vigilante stuff with Peacemaker. As we know, this guy, Adrian Chase, really adores Peacemaker, and it's like he's annoyed as they clearly get into, like, Peacemaker identifies. Seems under the surface you're kind of angry about it, but we saw Adrian just trying to get past the fact that he allowed him to get tortured so that he wouldn't give any information out. But what bothers him is that it was a bit too easy for Peacemaker to do that. In fact, there wasn't really any compassion, but he's choosing the narrative of, oh, you did this to make me a better version of myself. I love these two as a pair. Like, they're just hilarious. I thought, in all honesty, I liked the look of the Peacemaker show as we were going into it. Even as I was watching the first episode, as you guys know, I loved it. But I was a little bit unsure about the direction of Vigilante, just because it was quite a different version. But I love it. I can't say it any other way. He makes me laugh so much. And what more can I say other than John Cena and Freddie Stromer are just a brilliant pairing on this show. One who's a big fan of the other one, Peacemaker, kind of just tolerating him and being like, okay, you're on the team now. It just adds for quite an interesting cocktail. Now, at this part, though, we stop back off at his dad's so he can get a few things. And he goes into the Peacemaker cave to grab a few helmets, of which he does, which I'm really happy about, because, you know, when he grabbed quite a few of those helmets, that this means that we're going to get a few more interesting moments of power. It's not like he's powered, but the helmet has, like, one of them was a sonic boom. I can't remember what Peacemaker's father said some of the other helmets did, but obviously the fact that he's got a whole duffel bag full of Peacemaker helmets means that there's going to be a few more hilarious moments in store for us in episodes ahead. I love the appearance of the neighbor again, talking about how Batman has, like, a coterie of Rogues Gallery villains, like Joker, Riddler, Mad Hatter, and stuff. And it's like, if you're a superhero, then where's your, like, Rogues Gallery, a Peacemaker? And even though this really triggers Peacemaker because he's been really tolerating this neighbor this whole time and he's just been waiting to have an outburst on him, he does raise an argument that is very, 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 very true about Batman, no matter what way you see it. And I do like how he says, riddle me this, a nice little Riddler reference there. How many people do you think Batman has indirectly murdered by being too much of a candy ass for not killing them for once and for all? And it's true, like the fact that he keeps locking them up in prison, Joker escapes again, blows up a tower full of innocents, and technically you could look at that as indirectly all Batman's fault. And then you replicate that to all of the other villains who, yeah, so Peacemaker, you kind of have a point in a way. And I like how James Gunn was making that little commentary there, because it is sometimes fun to poke at other heroes like that, despite Batman being basically my favorite DC comic book character. In this moment from the neighbor, though, he learns that his father is in jail, and he immediately wants to go and see him. And now in this episode, again, I do like how they're separating Peacemaker from his father. Like, Peacemaker isn't racist himself, he isn't this, that, or the other, but his father, oh god, very much so is. And if anything, they're slowly, despite all of this action, comedy, all of these out there flamboyant things that we see episode to episode, he trinkles in these very carefully curated, somewhat sympathetic moments for Peacemaker. And this episode, I would say, did it the most, especially with the flashbacks with his brother, and how obviously he would lent into a little bit more about his file with what the team read about what his father did to him as a child. And that is what we kind of already know already, trained him to be a killer from a very, very young age. And those flashbacks later when he gave a younger Chris, like, I don't know, what was he, like 9 or 10 years old, a blade to kill someone with, and then, like, it just got expanded upon and expanded upon. You do realize, somewhat as I said in my episode 1 to 3 review, this man, as jerky as he may come across, even if it's ignorantly and naively so, he's not so self-aware, he is a product of someone or something else. And even then, even if he is a product of that person, he still isn't that other person like White Dragon. Peacemaker still is, as Leota says, a good man. He has a good heart. And I like how the show is leaning into that. Yet, you know, it's not massively concentrated upon, but it's sprinkled, nicely sprinkled throughout the story, and I feel like that's just going to get fleshed out nicely. And another thing that kind of just made my heart melt about this is, like, even though you can tell that Chris, aka Peacemaker, can tell that his dad is a piece of shit, he just wants that acceptance, and it is something that is relatable for so many people out there, especially when they get into the commentary later outside the prison with Leota. Sometimes you can see all the flaws in your parents, but you innately feel like they're good, but with the case of White Dragon, that's not the case, but, like, still, you want their acceptance, their love, or whatever, and Chris, with nobody else in life really liking him, he always has that commentary, like, I'm a piece of shit, nobody likes you, kind of thing. The one person I think he yearns for it most of all is from his dad, like, because he doesn't really have anyone else. His brother died, he was involved in that, we've got big clues as to what happened there, and it looks like it was an accident. He probably, yeah, it's just so transparent, like, what's going on. Meanwhile, outside, though, with Vigilante and Leota, she calls him out for being Vigilante, and he just, like, it's simple comedy, but just even when he subtly changes his voice like that, it was hilarious. And as these scenes unfolded, it then went to Peacemaker seeing his dad, and again, he just treats him like a pile of garbage. You can tell that Peacemaker is just, it's like he's got used to not registering any insult he gets from his dad, and just says, like, come on, like, I gotta do this, don't rat on the situation, this is what happened, I'll turn myself in as soon as this mission is over, this is bigger than me or you. He was talking about the fact it has to do with aliens. Again, he hammered down that he never had feelings for him, and he always loved his brother. Peacemaker tries to say, like, maybe I'm a grower and not a shower, like, obviously there's a bit of another joke going on at the same time, but speaking larger to, like, can't you just kind of learn to love me at least, or just something? And then outside, that's when Leota manipulates Vigilante, Adrian Chase, into getting the idea of how much better Peacemaker would be without his father in the picture, and that's when Adrian goes ahead and gets himself arrested by cracking a window, throwing a bin into it, so he can get inside the prison and actually have a shot at White Dragon. But because of what happens with that, which was hilarious, by the way, going up to the table of, like, white supremacists and saying what they're grateful to black people for, they were just literally like, who are you? But I was like, damn, good on you, Adrian, like, with how well he was fighting. I thought, damn it, we actually gonna have a White Dragon versus Vigilante fight here. But yeah, he's a lot better than what I thought. I thought initially, I knew he could fight, but I didn't know if he would be able to take on those people in the prison. But he made an easy job of them. But again, there are repercussions from this moment, of which I think are going to be rippling out into the next few episodes. And possibly in a big way, because when Vigilante said to him, as Peacemaker's dad was getting taken away, you're a bad father, he was shouting, oh, you know, I need to speak to the detective, my son is trying to kill me. Now, this could be leading to a White Dragon fight with Peacemaker. I'm just going to chuck a theory out there. It might be too out there and far-fetched. I don't know. But what if this series will get to a point of where Peacemaker actually ends up, I don't know if he's going to kill his dad, but what if it ends up in such a confrontation where they actually have a fight, all the bottled up anger that he has for his father is let out, and then vice versa for like White Dragon's hate for his own son. Also thinking that he sent Vigilante to kill him, which isn't true. We know Leota was behind all of that. I don't know. I can just imagine it going down that route with White Dragon thinking that Peacemaker sent Vigilante to kill him, because he did say that he was basically going to rat out to the detective about everything that had been going on. So with all of this alien butterfly stuff going on at the same time, I do somewhat half expect now some showdown between the White Dragon and Peacemaker. And I totally forgot to mention earlier, another big thing that speaks to that is that we saw the White Dragon suit in Peacemaker's dad's little frickin' Peacemaker cave, or White Dragon cave, if you will. And that suit seems to be quite a produced suit, so I can't imagine that it's not going to get used. Maybe they might just want to use it in extended flashbacks, who knows? But maybe some way or another, Peacemaker's dad gets out, puts on the suit, and starts going after his own son. And there's been lots of clues to that as well, with how he said, God, it's just so dark at the same time, that's why I can't help but laugh. Ever since he came out of his mother, so to speak, he should have slit his throat there and then. So it just speaks to the larger thing of when he finally does maybe go up and fight Peacemaker in a few episodes time, he's like, I should have done this a long time ago, killed you or something. So let me know your thoughts about that. Anyway though, Judo Master escapes and jump kicks John, which was absolutely hilarious. Peacemaker makes it back and they have a bit of a rematch. This rematch was just so funny though. I think it's just because every single time, even though Judo Master does put up a good fight of his own, every time that Peacemaker lands a punch, and this is why obviously they did it at the same time, because he's so much smaller than him, every punch he does land, he just goes walloping back as if like it's like David versus Goliath, in how it's just almost not fair, but it's also just so much funnier for it. Again, but something happens in this moment that is somewhat unexpected, with Leota shooting Judo Master right in the chest. We already touched on this earlier and how what that could do to this character, and now she could see like new worlds that her mother walks down the road of and all those kinds of things. But it turns out Judo Master is still alive. And I was thinking when he was taken back to the HQ in the office, or whatever you want to call it, he was bandaged up and being kept alive, and they're debating whether he will stay alive or not. I was thinking, like, wait, do you have surgery skills or something? Did you remove the bullet? Because I don't know. I know they said he probably won't make it, but the fact that he isn't already dead tells me that he probably will make it. I don't know, but if so, John must have some fine physician skills. One of my other favorite scenes of the episode, yet straightforward, was just how much Clemson is losing it with the team in the office, with how he says, every time you turn around, one of you is doing something fucked up, and it's just so true. And again, it's just, he's one of those characters who's meant to be really serious, yet they give hilarious lines to. And then we have the broader context now of how he is a freaking butterfly. I just love how dysfunctional this team is. He gets John right to work on getting Adrian Chase out of prison, since White Dragon would only go and kill him probably, and they can still use Vigilante for the efforts against the butterflies. After seeing Harcourt and getting a little bit of information about what the other team members know about him according to his file and what his dad did to him when he was younger, the whole brother story, Peacemaker goes back and listens to likely one of the stolen records that he took in the first episode. Basically just starts letting loose, you know, smoking, drinking. He gets the butterfly high, Eagly's there, and he's just kind of really upset as he's remembering the trauma of his past, since that's been quite a consistent thing in this episode, is the file on him and whatever his dad did to him. And he's really, I think, starting to reckon in these moments, as much as he's ignored it his whole life, how much of a jerk and dick that his dad is, like, truly. Again, I'm not saying that he doesn't already know it, but he's buried it this whole time. But I think when he was weeping on the floor, we got those flashbacks of him killing, being forced to stab. We saw the flashbacks of him and his brother just listening to records, and then we saw his brother have a fit, and I assume that he died from that fit, but I'm guessing that was because of a fight that he had with Chris. I'm guessing, long story short there, is we're going to get an expanded flashback of this scene, but you saw other kids kind of cheering along, so I'm guessing maybe him and his brother got into a little bit of a squabble, and because he landed maybe a successful right hook, it landed in the wrong way and caused his brain to kind of start fritzing out, and as a result of it just being kind of like a typical kid fight, an accident, he unfortunately died, which only added more resentment for White Dragon onto Peacemaker throughout his whole life, and something that probably Chris, Peacemaker, has carried such guilt for his whole life as well, on top of his father just shitting on him the whole time. So again, you kind of feel really sorry for him in this moment, but I like how even the butterfly walks along in a little jar like a hamster to get closer to Peacemaker. So I wonder if this butterfly is going to land in somebody and actually be able to talk to Peacemaker at some point in the future. By the way, with this montage scene, we're playing with the records and the other scenes going on with the other characters, it was really incredibly dark at the same time. But I think right by the very end of the episode, we had Leota putting together this kind of Glantai bottling company card that was left behind in Annie Sturpenhausen's belongings, her purse, and I believe she was the butterfly in episode 1. It seems very likely that the butterflies operating out of this local area are all working out of that bottling company address, and that's where they're going to go next. And that's when she called Clemson, and it turns out that he's got his own little bottle of goo and is basically a butterfly himself. Now again, I wanted to expand upon this so much more than what I did earlier, but I can't really think of any other ideas, unless there's just a couple of them. That is that he was compromised recently, so he wasn't a butterfly the whole time, which to be fair could add some interesting story beats, because he's just now a butterfly playing a double agent, and it's only a matter of time before the team finds out that their boss is kind of keeping certain things off the table or kind of distracting them from taking out the other butterflies. But again, that just seems a bit too obvious and predictable to me. So for some reason, he could be a butterfly who's actually wanting to take down the larger threat of other butterflies out there. But then again, why would one butterfly want to do that? I really don't know why. I feel like I'm missing something. I almost totally forgot the line of what he actually said to Peacemaker, and that was when he said, "You have no idea, butterflies, they're not what you think. They are," and then it got cut off. Now, I was theorizing, what if maybe he was trying to say butterflies aren't what you think, they're not here to take over, they're just maybe seeking refuge? That could be a thing, but the way it's been painted to us in the episode so far, they're like taking over so many people, politicians. You could argue they're trying to, you know, secretly take over the world and taking high positions in government, etc., which isn't like an unusual alien invasion storyline to go for. That's been done in other media and stuff. But again, that seems too straightforward to me. I really wonder what Judo Master was going to say with "they're not what you think." Maybe they are here for some kind of safety, but that's why Clemson, as we saw at the end of the episode and what I've mentioned before, is a butterfly trying to kill his own other butterflies. But for what reason? Is it the reason that whatever Judo Master was going to say, they're not what you think? Again, leave me your ideas down in the comments below. What did you think of this episode in general? Are you enjoying it just as much as the other episodes? I certainly am, and I'm already really looking forward to next week's episode. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, let me know if you liked this video just by leaving a like on it. That really does help out, and do subscribe for more coverage and breakdowns on Peacemaker just like this one. Other than that, you can click on the links in the description or in the top pinned comments. Follow me on Twitter, my Discord server, maybe pick yourself up a Boba beanie merch on my Teespring store. But other than that, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you people of the DC Cinematic Universe in the next video. Goodbye.